What I think about when I hear, well, we're going to have to walk the streets with our birth certificates and IDs and things of that nature. That doesn't matter. I mean, when somebody hates you and they have instilled hate that they refuse to let go, and they have those that work alongside with them, whether it's race, whether it's color, whether it's a homeless status, whether it's drug and alcohol status, whether it's the amount of money that one has, a high amount of money or a low amount of money, whether it's the different size of the tracks one live on. They don't care. Guess what? What I think about is back in the day when they would rip up you're free now, here's your papers. They would rip them up. Why wouldn't they do that now? They don't care. You got a government ID, work for the government. You got a birth certificate, born in America. You can have your mother, father birth certificate, born in America. You can have your grandparents' birth certificate, born in America. It don't matter. So how do you get around that? I don't know. I really don't know. I think those that are speaking up about it, it gets tiring, it's frustrating, but that's one of the only ways is to keep speaking up about it. You know, talk about hiding behind sheets or a mask. So I Googled on that and I put it into, Googled on it, AI'd on it, and this is what came back. That there is well-documented history showing that during the time of slavery in the United States, free papers, quote-unquote, or freedom certificates, documents that proved an African American, and I'm going to add Negro, American Indian, nigger, whatever they want to call it, was legally free, were vulnerable to being destroyed or lost or intentionally confiscated by those in positions of power or by others with authority, such as slave catchers, local officials, and even private citizens who wish to deny someone's freedom. This was not a rare or isolated occurrence. Many free black people lived in constant fear of losing their documentation, being kidnapped, and being forced into or back into slavery even when they had proper legal documents. Destruction and confiscation of freedom papers. Free black people were often required to carry their manumission papers, certificates of freedom, or other identification at all times. There are numerous historical accounts of individuals having their papers taken, destroyed, or ignored, leaving them essentially powerless and at risk of enslavement. The mere loss of destruction, accidental or deliberate, of these papers could result in a free person being sold into slavery, and there was little legal recourse available to them. Government and local authorities sometimes imposed fees and strict regulations for the renewal or replacement of these documents, further complicating the situation free black citizens. Radical use and weaponization of official documents. Throughout U.S. history, documents such as birth certificates and vital records were explicitly used to enforce racial hierarchies, especially under laws like the Racial Integrity Act of 1924. Misclassification, denial, or outright destruction of official documents based on race was used to police the boundaries of citizens and legitimacy, stripping people of rights based on the whim of prejudice of officials. Even into the 20th century, birth certificates were used to exclude marginalize or reclassify individuals and communities according to white supremacist policies, demonstrating that official documentation can be weaponized in various eras for social and racial control. This came out of the Washington Post. Context for today: when people suggest carrying a birth certificate or official papers for protection, it is important to understand the deep historical context. Racialized destruction or refusal to recognize identity documents has long proceeded in the U.S. even today. Documentation can be used as a gatekeeping tool, sometimes arbitrarily against marginalized communities, such as with voter ID laws or policies that specifically disadvantage those who cannot easily replace lost documents. So the concern that someone with the power of or a grudge could ignore or destroy legal documents, thereby stripping an individual of their rights or status, is not only historically accurate, but continues to resonate with the lived experiences of many Americans, especially in contexts shaped by racism, classism, or prejudice. For me, someone that has adult children, if I do say, you carry your documentation and stuff with you, always have copies, or just carry your copies of it and keep your documentation, the originals in records. Also, it's like, it's just a trip. Always, you just always have to protect yourself. I can only imagine, like, if the worst of the worst was to happen, just listening to all this stuff. If somebody I knew or worse, one of my children or me was picked up and sent somewhere, like, the only way I know about another country is living in Germany, or visiting other countries while we were in Germany. It's like, it's just horrible to think about, especially if you're not rich, you don't have money to fight and do all these things to protect yourself that way. And as far as, listening and looking at the Nuremberg trials, that's going to take forever. Just like with the food that's going on, the situation with the food stuff that's going on. My conspiracy theory is, you finally get rid of the majority of homeless people on the street, but now it's coming back to you evil, wicked, nasty people. Now, my conspiracy theory is now you're eating human remains, if that's what you're doing, Independent media and other sources are doing an awesome job with keeping people informed the best way they can. And I know it gets hard. But bringing information and just continuing to talk about stuff, it does help. It does bring about awareness to people to think twice, because you have some people that really don't want to continue to you really have people that don't want to continue to participate in bad stuff. So just continuing to talk about it and giving possible solutions, whatever you think your solutions are, and somebody might come up with a different solution, case by case basis, things of that nature. You got to keep talking about it. Got to keep discussing it as things look for the good in things, as things get better, continue to get better.